This tool that I'm going to show you is found under the Views tab. And you'll see the right here, there should be a markup panel. And then right here, you see it's got geometry cleanup. So if I click on this bad boy right here, it comes up with this. And what it allows me to do is to go and select object. Well, I'm just going to do the good old Control-A to select everything. And then before I, before you start, like when you start the first time, you're going to get a configuration that asks you, okay, what is the gap sizes? What is the overshoot? So all of these are things that it detects. So starting with this top one right here where it's a gap, it's looking for geometry where there's an actual gap between line. So you ever have a drawing where you go and put a dimension on and it's not a clean dimension? Instead, you get like 93 feet and 3/32 of an inch. You kind of double look at that and you're like, wait, what? We've never measured that. What's going on? And you start zooming in, trying to figure out what's going on, and you find that maybe in the corner, the line was actually separated by 3/32, and it's not, it's not complete, or now we have an error in the drawing because that right line is moved over, and now you got to go back and fix it. So what this does, it allows us to go and locate those changes or those issues. So if I go ahead and say scan now, it will come back with all of the things that it's found. And maybe some of the things are not important, and maybe others are. So you can see there's 3 detected gaps. You're kind of like, I'm going to look around here, and I just don't see those gaps. And yeah, if I click on this, it goes and highlights it and say, yeah, there's a gap right here. Well, what about this one right over here? There's another gap right here. And you can see that the line here is actually separated. You zoom out, and you were like, oh, wait, that's a window line that's kind of separated. You come over here, it's connected here. How many times have you run into something like that? And you know what? Oftentimes, it looks straight to you, right? You're like, well, Dan, I used the ortho mode to make this straight, so it should have been perfect. Well, yeah, but maybe this wall on the right side isn't actually linearly aligned. So we still have this gap here. So it allows us to identify these. Here's an interesting one. Notice how we got these absolute 0 and then an absolute 90. I looked at this and I'm like, wait a minute. I know that I use ortho the whole time. So I'm going to go take a look at this and see what this one is, this absolute 90. I look at this and I'm like, When I looked at this the first time, I'm like, I was like, you're crazy. That's perfectly straight, right? Well, then I did this. I went to the home and I drew a line and I drew it straight up, and lo and behold, there's where it was saying, hey, buddy, that line right there is not absolutely 90 degrees straight up. So how many times have you run into little things like that? These little things make detailing very interesting. And when it usually, when it happens, when you discover these mistakes, it's usually in the worst time ever. Like, oh, I'm sending this drawing out this afternoon. Now I got to go make sure that all of this is corrected, right?